Let's go back for a moment in FNAF history in 2021, where one of the most hyped up FNAF games ever released, Security Breach. And sadly, it turned out to be a bad game. It was glitchy, had bugs, parts of the map weren't loading, so you kind of just like in a void. But that's because Steel Wool, they tried to do something really big. They tried to make like a giant game, and they really messed up on it. And they kind of just left it in that state. It's still, to this day, a really glitchy game. Not as much as it was on release, but it's still a glitchy game. Then they released Ruin as some type of apology note, and from my point of view, that's one of my favorite FNAF games ever released. It gave us such cool characters like the Mimic, Cassie, and even the Virus. They gave us so much cool lore details in that game, and it's just fun to play. And now we're in the present day, where we are simply one day away from Secret of the Mimic, one of the most highly awaited FNAF games ever, and for good reason. They have been hyping this game up for so long. They've showed us promos. They even had a VR attraction with a life-sized Jackie statue that hanged on the ceiling. Mimic Monday, where they would show us a picture from the game and give us hints of what it's going to be about. They've given us over 4 gameplay clips about different chase scenes. They even sent Secret of the Mimic branded bundle boxes to different YouTubers. They were going all out with this advertising for this game. And for good reason, because this game is literally giving us the backstory to FNAF's new villain, the Mimic. And that's what I want to talk about today. I want to talk about my predictions for the game. I want to talk about maybe if I think the game's going to be good or not. Maybe I'll talk about how they've been doing a good job with the advertising. It's just, some last thoughts on the game before it finally comes out. So with all that said, let's get started. Predictions. Here are my predictions for what maybe this game could give us with lore, maybe some new characters, or even maybe a human render of William Afton. I don't know. My first prediction or theory is that Jackie is the Mimic, and of course I have some evidence and reasoning on why I would think this. First of all, if we look at the eyes on the Mimic when he's in the mushroom costume and Jackie himself, they both have the same eyes. That could either just be the technique Edwin uses, since we know he uses similar technology in all his robots, like the vacuum cleaner. But maybe it's the same creature, because I don't think he's made multiple Mimic robots until Fredbear Company bought his company. He only made one to entertain his kid. My second reasoning is in the book itself where we first meet the Mimic. It is said that he didn't have any legs, because Edwin made him simply to, entertain his son, so there's no point of giving him legs. And as we've seen in the live-action statue and in gameplay clips, Jackie doesn't have legs either. And assuming that, we know that we play as a recovery person to recover, the stuff Edwin didn't give the company, we could very well be the recovery people who die in the book. And in the book, the recovery people give the Mimic legs before they take him, and then that's when he starts murdering people. But do I think this is true? There's a 50% chance, because they probably won't go exactly off the story that the book had, but I feel they're gonna take certain parts of it out and use it as a placement on how to write the game. But for my second theory, I think they will show the Fall Fest, or, of course, what we know, how it burnt down, because this takes place around the same time Fall Fest did. And showing what we've seen in the background of Edwin's factory. He has a bunch of wooden cardboard cutouts and stuff, just like the Fall Fest had. So it could line up perfectly, and they could finally show us the mystery of the Fall Fest. Do I think this is possible? Absolutely, it could be possible. But I have one more theory. I'm not fully catched up on the lore of FNAF as, right now, but I'm pretty sure the Fredbear's Company, the one with William Afton, Spring Bonnie, and the Bite of 87, took place around this time period. So that means maybe, just maybe, we could maybe see Spring Bonnie, the Bite of 87, we could see something related to the Fredbear characters, especially since in the promo boxes that they sent to the YouTubers, there's literally a Spring Bonnie, Funko Pop type thing, bobblehead. But other than that, I don't really have too much predictions. I don't want to do too much because I want to keep track. So I only did 3, right? So now I just want to talk about something else, and that is the risk this game holds is something that no other FNAF game has ever held before. Because new FNAF has already been a really hated thing. People hate new FNAF for some reason. A big part of the fandom does. And a big reason for that is Security Breach. A lot of people hate Security Breach because it's glitchy or because it doesn't make sense. It's actually just because they're nostalgia blinded, but so they need to have a comeback like this by making a good game, especially a game explaining the backstory of their main villain. Because if this game turns out bad, not only is it gonna make more of the fandom hate new FNAF, but it is literally going to decide the future of this franchise as we know it. Because if this game sucks, the whole future of the franchise is cooked. Like, there's literally probably no hope for the franchise if this game sucks. And it's because this game, once again, as I said, is going to explain not only the backstory of the main villain, but give us new lore that people have been waiting for years now. And that's basically because this game takes place before all the other games. So anything they change in this game will literally affect the lore of the whole franchise. Like, they could literally mess it up and say some stupid stuff like, William is actually a woman and not the serial killer. And that would literally make it canon in every single game. It would cause a butterfly effect. Not only that, they've been putting out all this teaser trailers, promos, and all this. And if it turns out to be bad, that is just so much money wasted. But you understand. I think I've yapped enough to where you get what I'm saying. But I kind of have hope for this game. They showed by Ruin that they can make good games if they just put enough effort into it. Because in Security Breach, they were trying to do too much. They were trying to go way too up and big. They were biting too much than they could chew. And showing by Ruin, I think they figured out this perfect technique. They found the perfect mix to where they can make a good game. Because as controversial Ruin is, I find it to be a good game. Not something crazy and amazing like Help Wanted or FNAF 6, but it's relatively a really good game and a big step up from Security Breach. My bad for that stutter. So I have hope for Secret of the Mimic, and if it does turn out to be a good game, it will easily be my favorite game ever from the FNAF franchise. Because as I stated before, the Mimic is my favorite character in FNAF. And that's what leads us into my next yapping session, which is... Yes, the Mimic is gonna be one of the most important parts about this game. That's how they write their main villain, the Mimic. Because if you look in the book, the Mimic does have a really tragic backstory. He's simply just a robot that was once made to do good things and help Edwin's son. But then after an accident happened, he was just beaten to death by Edwin, and all of Edwin's agony and pain that happened from his son's loss went into the Mimic. And now the Mimic is being used for all this horrible stuff from the Fredbear's company. I view him as kind of this empty shell that's being puppeted by this cruel, evil world. And there's many ways they could show us his backstory in a well-written way. They could maybe, I don't know, VHS tapes. They could even have us meet Edwin, because he isn't dead, I think. Due to the fact that in the Pizzaplex books, he's literally alive until he dies in the tree. So he was alive throughout all the Five Nights at Freddy's games. So I don't see any reason how they can just put him in the game and he could explain his backstory or something sad. Because I would love to meet Edwin. Because Edwin, I feel like, is a really underrated character in the FNAF franchise. Because I feel he's a really sad character. But other than that, I don't really have anything else to say. My point is, I just want them to write the Mimic as a really well-written character and interpret him into this game really well. Because once again, I love the Mimic. So I would hate to see my character done dirty. Dirty? Wait a minute, that leads us into our next thing. From what we've seen in the trailers, this game doesn't look too scary. Of course, we have seen a dead body in the trailer, which is pretty new for the FNAF franchise. Could make the case that we've seen the Springlock scene, the Bite of 87, we even seen some clips of the dead body inside of Springtrap. We even had, like, the dead scene, like, dead screen in FNAF 1. But all of those, we don't really get to see too much gore. With the Bite of 87 and Springlock, those are just 2D pixels. FNAF 1, we just see, like, a little bit of blood popping out the eyes, and, like, his eyeball hanging from the eyes of the Freddy suit. The most goriest thing we've ever seen is Springtrap, when he's peeling off his mask and we can see that dead body. But let's be for real, that it's not even that gory, especially for a game like this. You would think it would be really gory, but it's kind of just like a red tomato guy. So I would love to see them do horror really well in this game. And I'm not expecting some Silent Hill type stuff, but it at least has to be a little shocking. But I would love to see interesting ways on how they use this mechanic. Like, let me just give you an idea. The Mimic can switch suits, right? So maybe we could play some type of guessing game and try to figure out which suit he's in. That would be really scary. Like, you always have to check around and look around your back to make sure none of the suits are moving. That would be horrifying. Imagine you turn around and it's just, like, standing over you. That would make me shit myself. Or maybe you could do something like mimicking, right? Because I know we have, like, a dispatch guy who maybe stays around with us. What if the Mimic mimics the dispatch guy and then leads us in there? That would be really scary as well. Of course, we have not too much stuff to go off from what the horror is going to look like, except some chase scenes, but that's expected in a horror game, especially FNAF. But I would love to see some mature type stuff, because this game franchise is really mature, even though it's meant for kids. We've seen dark subjects like suicide, murder, we've seen grief. This game's really dark, especially for a PG-13 kid game. So I would love to see that go on into this game. Maybe some gore, maybe some sad subjects, some grief. I would love to see that. But, you know, just to make sure this video isn't too long, I'm kind of done yapping about that. I simply just have one more thing to yap about, and that's gameplay is something that FNAF really isn't known for. They don't really have anything too crazy to talk about. And that's kind of due to the fact that half the games are point-and clickers, so there's not too much gameplay you can actually make from that. With the most best gameplay we get from FNAF games are probably Sister Location and Help Wanted. So I really hope they try to mix up the gameplay and give us something new and unique from the franchise. Some ideas from what we've seen, actually. We've seen the rat being thrown to distract the Mimic. There's probably going to be some mini games, but I'm talking about like some actually interesting gameplay. Like what we could do is maybe use some type of crane or something and use it to like move stuff or even attack the Mimic. Like there's so much interesting things y'all could do if you just put, like, effort into it. Other than that, that's my, basically, before Secret of the Mimic review and, like, predictions about what I think what the game will be about. And if the game's gonna be good. My honest review is that the game is really, really risky to release, because if it's bad, it's gonna decide the future of FNAF. And if it's good, it's gonna also just, you know, it's deciding basically the future of FNAF. Because a lot of people already hate new FNAF, so if it sucks, that's just not helping its case. But, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.